Hi, today's lecture is about concept testing. We are going to talk about what it is, how and why it should be conducted, and what can you expect as results. Concept testing isn't taking a physical prototype of the product or the concept and taking it into a laboratory and then doing some kind of physical tests on it. Concept testing is actually human experiments. In principle, we are just going to take our ideas, our concepts, and we are going to present them to the customer. And we are going to measure what kind of reaction do the customers have to our ideas. Concept testing has three major goals. The first one, of course, is to get feedback from our potential customers. But at the same time, we also want to get information on how can we improve our concept based on that information. And finally, we also want to get some kind of idea what our sales numbers for this concept or our product could possibly be. As an example, in this lecture, we are going to use Power Corporation. Their development team has created a concept for personal transportation market. It's an electrical scooter, and you can see how the first concept looks like in this slide. And now the team wants to get feedback, what customers think about this solution and whether they should continue with the product development process. Now, when is the concept testing done? It's done right after the team has selected one or two suitable concepts, and then we can just continue with getting the opinions from our potential customers. And this is one of the final stages of phase one concept development, because after we have the feedback for our concepts, then we can set the final specifications. We have talked about that in previous lectures, and then we can continue with actually designing our product. Do it first on the system level, and then we can go into details. Next, we are going to talk about concept testing method. It's a 7-step process, and we are going to just briefly go over the major points for each step in order to assure that the results are what we would expect. First, we have step 1. Defining the purpose of concept testing. There are subtle differences on what kind of information do we actually want from our customers. First option would be that we have 2 or 3 ideas or concepts, and now we want the customers to help us choose which of these would be the most suitable concept. Secondly, we can have a situation where we actually have selected one concept. This is the strongest contender, and now we want to gain information about how we can improve this concept. And finally, we can also focus on how many units or how many products can we possibly sell by using this concept. So the team should consider a little bit what kind of questions do they want to ask from their customers and what is the information that they want from their potential customers. The next thing that you have to do is to choose the survey population, and this is step 2, and it consists of 2 different decisions. The first one is that you have to now define what is your market segment. How is your market segment defined? If people's age, their gender, or their hobbies define whether you want information from them or not. Because people outside the market segment, their opinion, you actually don't really care about that. So first, define your market segment. Secondly, you also have to decide how many people do you want to survey. And here are some recommendations that would favor smaller sample size. First, if the tests occur early in the development process, you probably want to ask fewer people because the company and the team isn't actually sure about their concept yet, and the different features and functions can probably change in the future. You just want some opinions from outside the development team to give you some kind of feedback what other people think of your ideas. Secondly, if you want to gather qualitative information, you don't want like statistical numbers and you get nice percentages, but you just want to present some functions to the customers and get feedback on the quality of the function or the feature. Then, of course, if the survey will take a lot of time and money, you probably don't want to invest that much in just testing the concepts. The fourth thing to consider is the size of investments. If the investments are smaller, then the risks are a little bit lower, and you probably don't need that big of a survey population. And finally, if many positively inclined people can be found from a smaller sample, you probably will need a smaller sample. For example, if you are developing furniture, then it is quite easy to find people who have some kind of opinion on that furniture because, well, everybody has used furniture. So at the end of step 2, you should have your market segment and roughly the estimation how many people you should survey. Now step 3, choosing the survey format. You have 4 different ways on how you can conduct this survey. And the first option is to use face-to-face interaction. This can be done on the streets or in shopping malls, but there is one major problem. Companies like Sarman and Elisa and all these other things that bother people in shopping malls have made them immune to any kind of person that would approach them. So our recommendation would be that you very clearly present that you don't want to sell them anything, that you just want information and their opinion. You can offer them something, for example, give them a cookie for answering questions for a few minutes. And final recommendation would be that you have prearranged this survey. And this can also be done with people that have already helped you in this product development process. For example, people you interviewed when you defined the customer needs. The next option is to use telephones. This has the same kind of problem, that people don't want solicitors calling them and trying to sell them something. And the recommendation is exactly the same, that you try to communicate as clearly that you don't want to sell them anything, but you want just information. And if you can do that, then you probably will get about 5 or maybe even less % response rate. The third option is to use postal mail, that you send materials to potential customers. They fill out a response form and you can gather information in that way. And this method actually has a lot of potential because people nowadays only receive some kind of flyers and advertisements from companies. And I personally can't remember the last time that I actually got something that has a little bit meaning in postal mail. And the final option is to use emails. And there are 2 major problems. The first one is that people are immune to spam. They will not open your letters and the response rates are very, very low. Secondly, the mailbox filters usually just categorize your emails as spam and people don't even know that you sent them this information. And the best way on how to get feedback on all of these different formats is to prearrange everything, that you have a personal relationship with the people that you are surveying, and this will ensure that the people are going to give you feedback on your concept. Next, on to step 4, how to communicate the concept. There are several different ways on how you can explain what your concept is all about. The first one is to use verbal description. This is somewhat limited because you can describe the functionality, but it is very hard to describe the form of the product. Nevertheless, the verbal description is used in combination with the rest of the possible methods. The next option is to use sketches, that you show a picture about how the product is going to look like. And here you can include that verbal description. And this gives a better overview what the product is going to look like and also about the functionality. The third option is to use photos and renderings. In most cases, using photos means that the company has to build some kind of prototype. But renderings have a lot of potential, especially now that CAD systems have developed so far. The picture that you see on this slide is a rendering from a CAD system. It is about the electrical scooter, and it is done a few years back. The CAD systems have developed, and on this slide you can see that one of these pictures is a photo and the second one is a CAD rendering. Now the question is, can you identify which of them is the photo and which of them is the rendering? If I remember correctly, then the light blue motorcycle is the photo because it had the Honda logo down there. But this shows that by using 3D modeling and CAD systems, you can very easily create a photorealistic picture about your product. The next option is to use storyboards. This is using pictures but with a little bit more dynamics. You can show different ways on how the product can be used and show off the different functions of the product. Next, we have a video describing the product and showing how the product can be used by different people. And here you can see that they are showing off the different functionalities, how the product can be really compact and be stored next to your bed, and how different people ride on this scooter. Next, we have simulation. This is a software solution where the customer can interact with the product virtually. This can be done for physical products. For example, if you have some kind of kitchen equipment, let's say a microwave, then in the simulation, people can click on different buttons to see how the product reacts, what kind of noises it makes, and what kind of functionality does it offer. But in most cases, this simulation is done for software developers. And this is an example on how the user interface, or one of the concepts for user interface for Xbox One is simulated. You can see that the person can test different functionalities, switch between gaming and watching movies and all these other functions. So basically just clicking around and getting the feel how the product works, at least in the virtual world. Next, we move on to physical prototypes, and there are two different types. The first prototype is the lookalike prototype. This means that it doesn't have any kind of functionality, but it has the look of the final product. It is usually manufactured from wood or foam or any other kind of easily malleable materials, and it just gives the customer better understanding how the final product is going to look like. And finally, we have the working prototype. In this case, we don't focus on the look of the product, but we focus on the functionality. And in case of developing the electrical scooter, this working prototype was really crucial because people, after riding it, gave higher quality information and better feedback because they actually had on-hands experience with the product itself. So these are all the different types of ways on how you can present your concepts. And you have to decide to use one or combination of these possible options. Now we would also like to discuss price. In most cases, the development team wants to include the price in the product description. This actually can result in biased results because if the price is very low, then the customers will be a little bit too positive about the product. And if in the later stages it turns out that you can't meet this price, then the whole concept testing is useless. You can't use that information because it is based only on the price. At the same time, if the price is too high, then the customers will be much more negative about the product. What we would recommend is not to include the price, but ask the customers what they would be willing to pay for this product. And finally, we would recommend that you use two concepts. They don't have to be vastly different. They can just be with different form or have some kind of difference in functionality. Using two concepts gives the customer some kind of reference point because if you are going to compare similar products, then you can point out which of the parts you like and which of the parts you don't like. Step 5 is to measure customers' responses, and this can be done by asking the customer whether they would like to buy the product or not, and also ask about what would be the probability that the customer is going to buy this product within a certain period of time. And this measurement can be done by just filling out these different survey forms. And here is an example what the scooter team used. The first questions define that the person answering the survey belongs to the market segment that we are interested in. Secondly, we are going to describe the product, also show our prototype and let them ride it. And then we are going to ask about what would be the probability that the person within the next year will buy this product. And also we are going to ask about the price. At the end of step 5, you should probably have dozens of these filled out forms. The next step is to interpret the results. So we are going to gather all the information that we got from the surveys, and now we are going to see what kind of sales numbers can we expect. And these sales numbers can be calculated by using the following formula. We have Q, which is the quantity of products that we can sell over a certain period of time, and it can be calculated by multiplying three different variables. The first variable is N. This is the number of potential customers that we can expect in this certain product category. Next variable is A. This is the percentage of the potential customers who are aware of our product and who this product has been made available to. And the final variable is P. This is probability that the customers are going to buy our product. In the survey, we had the probability that the customers will buy our product. And we are going to just focus on the people who said that they would definitely buy it or that they would probably buy it. The rest of the surveys we actually don't want to look at because the probability that these people are going to buy our product is very, very low. So in order to calculate how many people actually are going to buy our product, so P is calculated by using the following formula. We have B definitely, so this is buy definitely, people who said that they definitely will buy it, and we are going to multiply it with a coefficient because people that said that they would definitely buy it, in most cases, most of them actually don't. And we are going to add the probability that the people who said that they would probably buy B probably, and multiply that with a different coefficient because people that said that they would probably buy, the percentage is even lower. And in this formula, the coefficients are based on statistics. So the C definitely is usually around 10 to 50%. In most cases, we can use that the coefficient is about 0.4. This means that the people that said they would definitely buy your product, only 40% finally actually do. And the coefficient for C probably it is even lower. It's usually around 20%. So the coefficients are 0.4 and 0.2 accordingly. Next, we are going to go through an example on how this formula can be used. The market segment that we are focusing on is warehouses, where this scooter can be used as personal transportation. First, we have to find out what is the potential number of customers that we can expect that will buy the scooter within the next year. And this can be done by analyzing similar product categories. For example, in the previous year, scooters sold for 150,000 units. And we can assume that each year they are going to sell the same amount. And now these are our potential customers. If we possibly could, we could sell our product to all of these people. This probably will not happen, and this is where we are going to take into account the other variables. Next, we have to assess the variable A, how many people are aware of our product. And we are going to assume that we can sell this via a retailer that has about 25% of the market share. So this means that our variable A is 0.25. So this means that 25% of our potential customers are aware of our product and they also have it available to buy. And finally, the probability. We had really positive results. 30% said that they would definitely buy our product and 20% said that they would probably buy our product. So now we have to multiply these very positive results with coefficients. And we are going to use the coefficients as 0.4 for definitely and 0.2 for probably. So by multiplying and adding these two parts together, we can get the final probability. And now if we take the equation and multiply these three variables together, we can see that we can assume that within the next year, we can sell about 6,000 units. This is just an estimation. In no way it guarantees that we can sell this amount of products. But the alternative would be infinitely worse, to do nothing, that we don't have any kind of idea what kind of sales numbers can we expect. So at the end of step 6, we pretty much have completed the concept testing. We have the information from our potential customers, what they thought about our product, how can we improve it. We also have information about the price, and we also have some kind of estimation how many products could we sell. And now the final step would be to reflect on the results. There are two main questions that the team should ask themselves. First, was the product communicated to the customers in a way that the customers really understood the product? Because otherwise the information that they gave you is, well, useless. And the second thing to ask is whether the estimation of sales numbers is realistic. For example, a competitor, GoPed, that has a petrol engine on their scooter, sold only 1,000 units last year. And now, if we assume that we can sell 6 times as many units, is this realistic? And this is the final product. It was completed based on the information that they gathered in concept testing. And the market segment that they finally targeted was the warehouses. You know, these really big buildings where you have to walk 20 or 30 kilometers per day. And this is the place where they sold their products to. In conclusion, the concept testing is just getting information from your potential customers and estimating the sales numbers.